The Block After Party is a Trove developer survey that asks you, the player, which of the class that you would like to see getting some love. You can choose up to 5 classes and giving them a reason on why these classes should get tuned. Here's going to be my 5 classes that I ended up choosing, plus the Knight, and I will be leaving a link in the description down below for the survey if you want to take it yourself. First of all, I will talk about briefly on the Knight. Knight is not one of the 5 classes that I chose, but me being the Knight main, I do feel I need to talk about my main character. If you really end up using the Knight at the end game, you end up just using Spirit Squire and your basic attack. Spirit Squire for movement speed purposes, and you use the basic attack for literally everything else. You don't even dodge with this character because the dodge is the worst in the game. Smash and Iron Will really doesn't work with that playstyle. Iron Will, I mean, I guess, but considering that now we have the block stat, many survivability type abilities are not as useful. Knight being one of the classes that has the highest block in the game, you end up like never using Iron Will like at all. And Smash, don't get me started on Smash. It does the same damage as your Spirit Square. It kills your movement speed, as you see right here. It has less range. It doesn't have any utility. You, for the most part, if you have Spirit Square, you never touch this ability. Even if you don't have Spirit Square, you never touch this ability in general because it is so slow for you to activate the ability in general that by the time that you do damage with the Smash, you can easily just do like 2 basic and it's going to do more damage. So overall, this ability is just useless. This one needs some changes. Some of the changes that I would like to see is that instead of just being a cone, it should be better if it was a radius. Instead of just being like a taunt ability, it should be more of like a pull ability. Whenever you activate this ability, you are going to hit all enemies in a radius and they're going to pull towards the Knight. Considering that the basic attack on the Knight is the shortest in range, maybe that would just make the character or Smash a better utility ability for Curse Skull or even Monolith. To me, that would just make the ability just a little bit more useful. And Iron Will, it should give more than just health and protection. Again, block, it already just invalidates most survivability type abilities, and considering that Knight has way too many of them, something like Iron Will lasting for 12 seconds, 40 seconds cooldown, and all it does is heals you 100%, which by the way, you can easily heal 100% if you do have any form of lifesteal in this game. The 50% protection, again, with the lifesteal, you already heal everything, and the block stat, you already are surviving everything. And then prior to even the block stat, you already had the Defiant Vial and even Unyielding. It should give more. It should give like a damage reflect, damage increase, more movement speed, or anything more than just take less damage and just heal 100%. It should be more. The next character that I ended up just choosing in the survey was the Chloromancer. Chloromancer, I do feel, is the worst class in the game currently right now. It's the worst class for dungeon grinding and for bossing. It's supposed to be good at, it's above average, but it's nowhere near the best. Boomeranger and Solarian already just do what the Chloromancer can do but better, and they're way better in dungeon grinding. Everything is just throw down, shoot basic, and then just wait until it does damage. That's essentially the whole gimmick of the Chloromancer. Everything is so slow with this character. The main culprit are going to be the passive ability. I don't know why the passive ability, you attack, it has a chance, it draws a plant, and then you have to attack with the basic attack so that it detonates, and then once it does mediocre damage. That in its own, to me, is just like one of the biggest, like, why? You already have something like the Ice Age basic attack, like you can just detonate with the class gem. Like, why not make the Chloromancer do the exact same thing but by default? The other culprits are going to be Green Gatling. Green Gatling only being 1 burst is a crime and a half. Like, I believe Green Gatling has like a 2-second cooldown per plant, and it only has 1 burst, so it lasts for very little amount of time. Green Gatling should have more bursts, it should do more damage. It does 1 times damage, it should be like 2 times damage or something like that, or even 2.25 times damage, the same as the ultimate ability Green Gatling. It doesn't last too long, and you have to wait too long for you to actually just make it work. Lastly is Leafy Lasher. This ability is it has a 9-second cooldown, does 1 times damage, attacks every 0.8 seconds, it's low damage, it has a long cooldown. This ability is just more than like useless. To me, it should be doing like the same damage as the Leafy Lasher from your ult. It should be attacking at least 2 attacks per second. It should only have like a 1-second cooldown instead of like 9 seconds. And then the whole thing with the ultimate ability with the Chloromancer, love the lag. Trove has just been okay. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, it was the ultimate ability. The fact that the ultimate ability essentially just gives you a new set of ability that do the exact same thing, to me, I do feel it's just so pointless. The fact that you have regular Green Gatling, regular Leafy Lasher, and then then you have your ultimate ability variants, which are the Empowered Green Gatling and the Empowered Leafy Lasher, which just are bigger version. To me, these two, the Empowered version should be the default abilities, and the ultimate ability, all that it should do is increase your overall damage on the Chloromancer, or do something that increases your whole damage. I do feel like just giving an overall flat damage increase across the board, it would be better, because it would just help out the basic attack, it will help out the mini bloom passive, and it will help out all of the plants. But yeah, the Chloromancer is like really slow, and once you actually have everything just set up, it doesn't do enough damage. The third class that I chose was the Tomb Racer. So Tomb Racer, currently as it stands right now, it is okay. You can definitely just use it. I do feel it is better than Chloromancer, and it's much better than a lot of people give it credit. However, it just has so many problems with minion management and just get into this fullest potential. And what I mean by that is that everything just takes way too long to set up. Like, you have to have essentially 6 minions, and then you have to spawn 6 more minions so you can have them possessed. And then once you actually have them possessed, that's when you can just do the most amount of DPS on this character. And then once you have all 6 possessed minions, you can just have them maxed out Goliath. It's like you essentially have to do so much to have like 6 possessed minions, when you have classes like the Dracolite, where it is like the biggest comparison when it comes to minion management. You just slap on some energy regeneration and you can easily just have 6 minions. There you go. That's all it took me to have all 6 minions. The whole mechanic on the Tomb Racer is just spawning possessed minions, and to me, like, that just doesn't feel good, because these minions take damage. They already have a timer, so they can easily just get deleted rather quickly, and you already saw how long it took to actually just have everything set up. So for the most part, you will not be running with max amount of minions, not even all of them possessed, and you will be for the most part doing like even close to the max potential damage that the character can actually dish out. Me personally, the Tomb Racer minions should not take any damage and should last a little bit longer, not even 30 seconds. This should last like a minute. Or if you want to keep the 30 seconds of timer, remove the whole possession mechanic and increase the damage of the regular skeletal to the whole. Okay, as I was saying, if you're going to keep the 30 seconds of timer, please at least just remove the whole possession and just increase the damage of the minions. The minions should be doing the same damage as the possessed minion, it lasted 30 seconds and should take no damage. And then we move on to something like the Classian that lasts only 2 seconds. I don't know why that only lasts for 2 seconds. They should be like something like 15 or even 20 seconds. The Great Goliath, the fact that you had to summon so many skeletons just to have that max out Great Goliath. Great Goliath should be just maxed out by default. The damage is high, but it's not going to be game breaking if you have it like that. It just takes too long to set everything up. Trove is a really fast paced game, and just having really long setup ability, it just doesn't work. The next class that I chose was the Vanguardian. So Vanguardian, I do feel currently right now it is in a rough position, considering this is one of the quote-unquote advanced classes. All you get is just essentially a weaker knight on melee mode and just a ranged character. Why do I mean by it just being a weaker knight? The Vanguardian, the basic attack has the same range as the knight at 3 blocks. It does roughly the same amount of damage, but it's slower and it has worse crowd control. It's not a bad basic attack. The damage is high, speed is average, but it's good. Range is not good, and the crowd control is not horrible, but it's not insane either. But considering that that is the Vanguardian's strongest thing, that's not good. It has the Eye Beam, which is comparable to something like the Spirit Square. It's an instantaneous cast ability that has essentially an instant hitbox, a similar crowd control, but has less range, costs more energy, and it does slightly less damage. It's a little bit more spammable though, but that's essentially about it. And then you move on into Force Flash, which is comparable to Overcharge, the hidden effect, because both of them have very similar in terms of speed. Force Flash on Vanguardian is plus 30, Overcharge is plus 25. The thing is that Overcharge on the Knight has no cooldown, and Vanguardian's Force Flash cooldown is 20 seconds versus Knight's Overcharge having no. You would think that this game is in prime time or something like that. It's like literally just reset right now. It's like 7 a.m. for me. Vanguardian Force Flash. I was talking about Force Flash. This was only good back in like 2018 when this class got introduced. And not many classes did have a movement speed buff, and having the Vanguardian having a plus 30 movement speed buff was just completely unique. So Force Flash never actually got a class rebalancing or buff, and now it just feels very out of place. And again, comparable to the Overcharge hidden effect from the Knight, this having a 20-second cooldown and the Knight having no cooldown, and the difference is only 5 movement speed. It's just not that good, because overall it's just going to be worse for the Vanguardian because it just has a longer cooldown. I know it has the class gen where you actually attack with your basic attack that reduces your cooldown, but the Knight has no cooldown, so what's better? Having reduced cooldown every single time that you attack with the Vanguardian, or just having no cooldown in general? Making it like a toggle ability similar to like Revenant's Spirit Spears, maybe something like that, but for Force Flash, so you can always have a movement speed buff active all the time, and an AoE that does damage. Range mode is just terrible, the hit detection is just awful, the basic attack is slightly weaker in terms of damage per hit. I do believe it's like 2.8, but it attacks faster, and it does have Fired Up, which gives you damage and attack speed increase, so I believe of plus 25% or 50%, something like that. I don't know, it doesn't really matter, you can easily just reach max attack speed without it. It just feels like so out of place in general. A personal idea that I had with the Vanguardian a long while ago is going to be, instead of just making the class into a weaker Knight with a bad range kit, why not make the character just unique in one aspect? That is going to be gliding. The Vanguardian has a passive ability tied to gliding. I do feel like the Vanguardian could benefit really well just by being like a class that focus on gliding, where if you're gliding, your movement speed is not set to the wing speed. You can move around at your regular speed, and then after 3 seconds you get a movement speed buff if you're gliding. And then also maybe, who knows, maybe allow the Vanguardian attack while in midair while gliding. That would be really fun, though, especially in range mode. And then melee mode is just on the ground, and that would just make the character just a little bit more unique. The fourth character in this list was the Lunar Lancer. This is going to be a very surprising with a lot of people, and the reason being is because the Lunar Lancer is not a bad class. This is actually a pretty solid class, but the one way that I could just describe the Lunar Lancer is this ability or this attack is good, but to perfectly understand all of that, you need to know how all of the abilities currently work. So I will be going into all of them in a little bit more detail. The basic attack is just your standard 2.8 times damage multiplier, 1.75 attacks per second at base. But if you notice that the last hit on the combo is the crescent combo, that alone actually limits the Lunar Lancer to having a maximum of 240 attack speed, which means that after 240% attack speed, it doesn't do anything for this character in particular. And that is something that not a lot of people tend to know, because this is something that only people that play the Lunar Lancer or have played this game for a long time know about this character. Most newer players are not going to know that, and heck, most players don't even know that the maximum attack speed is 300%. My suggestion is to just remove the crescent combo and just keep the stab similar to what it was before the rework, so that it has the 1.75 attacks per second all the time. The second thing is going to be the grapple. The grapple, you actually just see right here, it just works as intended, just similar to some of the other grapple like Bomber Royale and also the one from the Geode Caves. However, unlike those other two, this actually has a little bit of an animation, which can be a little bit of a problem. So this is going to be noticeable right there. You saw that in Insane Light. That's not even because of the game, even though you saw already in the whole video I've been crashing out like crazy. Because of the Lunar Lancer, the whole animation right there, it actually just creates this whole delay behind the grapple. To me personally, the grapple should be similar to like the one from the Geode Caves and similar to the one from the Bomber Royale, where it doesn't have that whole animation right there. It's just instantaneous and it's just going to pull you off. The third ability is going to be the Lunar Leap. This ability right here, it has some really good utility, just gives you some vertical mobility, does some damage. The problem is that the Lunar Lancer has a slow fall whenever you activate this ability, and you cannot cancel out that whole slow fall by using a dodge similar to something like the Gunslinger. You have to essentially be stuck in that whole slow fall animation, which is just a really big problem, especially for a speed build character. Good in the vertical mobility department and giving you the other grapple, being the Lunar Infused Grapple, but it just gives you the slow fall, which can be quite a detriment. So obviously my suggestion is going to be to allow the player to do a dodge to cancel out the slow fall. Next up is going to be the Lunar Infused Grapple. It does pretty good damage on its own. I believe it does like 8 times damage. Not only that, it's essentially another grapple once again. So you can actually just have the regular grapple, Lunar Leap, into Lunar Infused Grapple and have 2 grapples. But you saw right there, it has the same animation as the regular grapple, so it tends to glitch out like crazy. And it also has a buff that gives you an 85% bonus physical damage bonus percentage, and if you have the Need for Speed hidden effect, it gives you the 85% movement speed, which is the strongest movement speed buff in the game. However, it is time for you to actually hit in the enemy. So if you don't hit the enemy or anything, you don't get any benefit from the Lunar Infused Grapple, which again, it can be quite a bit of a problem. And lastly is going to be whenever you activate the Lunar Infused Grapple, you are committed in just activating the Lunar Infused Grapple, because after a couple of seconds after activating the Lunar Leap, the Lunar Infused Grapple goes back into the regular grapple. To me personally, you should always keep the Lunar Infused Grapple after you Lunar Leap, so you can actually just have the Lunar Infused Grapple whenever you want, which it will give you a little bit more flexibility, and you don't have to commit fully in just having to activate Lunar Infused Grapple immediately the moment that you activate Lunar Leap. So my suggestion should be pretty simple. First of all, after you activate Lunar Leap, you always keep Lunar Infused Grapple forever until you activate the ability. There should not be any timer on you activating the Lunar Infused Grapple after you do the Lunar Leap. Secondly is going to be that the Lunar Infused Grapple buff should be activating whether or not if you do hit an enemy, because it allows you to get the buff all the time and being much more consistent. And then if we move on to the ultimate ability, it's pretty good. It gives you a lot of stats across the board. It makes your basic attack really strong. The problem is that all of the abilities are relatively useless for the most part, because you can actually just see that it takes quite a bit to actually recover all of the energy. You have to activate all of your abilities, and also hitting an enemy with the basic attack gives you moon power or energy. So whenever you activate your ultimate ability, you don't gain any moon power whenever you hit with the basic attack, and all of your abilities cost energy upon activation, and they cost quite a bit. Both the Eclipse Spear and the Lunar Slam cost 10 energy per cast. That's 1/10 of your whole ultimate ability just by activating one of those two abilities. And then if you activate Blessing of the Moon, it is 25 energy, which is 1/4 of your whole ultimate ability timer. And again, it takes you quite a bit to actually just recover the whole ultimate ability. Both the Eclipse Spear and the Lunar Slam should not cost any energy. The Eclipse Spear should either do more damage because it does less damage than the basic attack, and when you do actually just activate the Eclipse Spear, you get the Lunar Infused Grapple buff, so you can actually just get a damage increase or the movement speed increase if you do have the need for speed. So you can actually just throw down the Eclipse Spear, get the movement speed buff, and just run around really quickly, so you don't have to go out of your ultimate ability, activate Lunar Infused Grapple, and then just get all of the whole ability. To me, that's just way too much of a convoluted process to actually just make the Lunar Lancer work. And then Lunar Slam kills your whole movement speed. You cannot move, and even if you're moving a whole lot, it literally just kills your whole movement speed on the spot. Personally, I would just say two things. Either A, remove the Lunar Slam completely, because Lunar Slam doesn't have any place on the Lunar Lancer kit. It literally just goes against everything. You can actually just see running forward, and it kills your movement speed on the spot, and then you have to essentially just wait until it lands. It's a really slow ability on a character that has really fast abilities altogether. It's supposed to be a very speed build character, and having that Lunar Slam is really slow. Lunar Slam should be allow you to move around whenever you do the Lunar Slam, or just remove it completely and be the ability that allows you to deactivate your ultimate ability, because the only way that to activate the ultimate ability, as you've been seeing all this time, is me going on to build mode, so that it will just go back into the regular Lunar Lancer and keep all of the energy. That is a tactic that not a lot of people know, and to me personally, this should be something that the Lunar Lancer should have by default, allowing you to just deactivate your ultimate ability. And if you deactivate your ultimate ability prematurely, you get some energy back, so you can actually just maintain the ultimate ability more frequently. So that to me is like the suggestion that I have on the Lunar Slam. That ability is way too slow for the Lunar Lancer kit. And then the Blessing of the Moon, to me personally, this ability is good, but it just takes way too much energy. 25 energy is too much. That ability should either cost 10 or even none, similar to all of the abilities on the Lunar Lancer, because once again, the ultimate ability already has a timer. Why make the timer just shorter? I have no clue. And that essentially is the whole Lunar Lancer. Good things, but it has a problem. The basic attack, it has the problem with the 240% attack speed. Grapple, it has the problem with the animation startup. The Lunar Leap has the problem with the slow fall. The Lunar Infused Grapple has the problem of you being able to activate the ability, or being forced to activate the whole ability, and the fact that you have to hit an enemy in order for you to get the buff. And the ultimate ability, that it has all of the problems with Eclipse Spear costing energy and doing less damage than your basic basic attack, Lunar Slam killing your whole movement speed, and Blessing on the Moon costing 25 energy. Remedying all of those problems with the Lunar Lancer is going to make the character just feel way better. I don't think it needs like insane damage increases in general because the stats on the character are already pretty good. The problem is that it feels just way too clunky because all of those detriments that the Lunar Lancer has. The last class that I just chose on this list was the Neon Ninja, and again this is another class that to a lot of people might be very surprising. Isn't this class just insanely fast and it does its job really well? Not really. This character is some of the most disjointed and least synergized character that I've seen in my life. Let's just start off with just breaking everything down. The basic attack, pretty good, 2.85 times damage, 2 attacks per second, fast, does pretty good damage, pretty solid. I don't think it needs any changes. However, you cannot use your basic attack while in stealth mode because you throw down your shuriken. That's how the character should work. The problem is that that whole shuriken got nerfed so hard in the shadowy spotlight that in many cases you want to be using your basic attack all the time, and the shuriken with the Neon Ninja used to be like the bread and butter on this character. It used to do 2.5 times more damage whenever you dealt a critical hit against an enemy with a maxed out shuriken. Now it's 25%, which is a big hit. This is essentially what made the Neon Ninja so unique in my own personal opinion, because the Neon Ninja was all about just moving around really quickly and throwing down the whole shuriken. Back then in the shadowy spotlight, when it got nerfed, it wasn't that big of a deal because the highest portal at the time was Uber 10, which is difficulty 13 right now. So even despite the whole nerf, the Neon Ninja was still one-shotting with the whole shuriken. However, a couple of months after the shadowy spotlight, we got the Sunrise update, which dropped Uber 11, now difficulty 14. And ever since Uber 11 got introduced, the Neon Ninja has never looked good again. The Neon Ninja stopped one-shotting with the shuriken, so this ability just became really slow and not effective. And again, all of the damage multiplication on the Neon Ninja are good, but they're not that great. And 2.85 times damage multiplier is good, but once again, when you have characters like the Knight doing 4.55, Vanguardian doing 3.85, Revenant doing 4.2, heck, even the Lunar Lancer doing 2.8 and having a 30% physical damage by default, Candy Barbarian doing 3.25 and having a physical damage by default, like many characters are dealing more damage and have other abilities to make the character work. The Neon Ninja used to be the character where all of the abilities are okay, but the shuriken dealt so much damage. So the shuriken, to me personally, it should have the whole critical damage multiplication back, because that's what made the Neon Ninja to me unique. It made the character just stand out amongst a lot of the other characters because you essentially just one-shot at literally anything and everything with an extremely high damage ability. It doesn't make the character overpowered in the slightest because A, the Neon Ninja is no longer the fastest class in the game. B, the damage is high, but many characters are dishing out some really high damage already by default, way higher than when the Neon Ninja was at its best. And the third thing is going to be that the character still not going to have a like insane amount of DPS. I describe the Neon Ninja to be essentially the Chloromancer of dungeon grinding. Not good for anything outside of just being really fast and having really high damage per hit and being able to one-shot. That to me is the Neon Ninja. That should still be the Neon Ninja's main game plan, and the Neon Ninja should get the shuriken back to what it used to be. Now let's move on to some of the other abilities. The Shadow Flip is one of those abilities that has incredibly high potential, but it also is one of the most disjointed ability because you literally cannot do anything while you're in stealth mode. Only thing that you can do while in stealth mode is either run or do a dodge. That's it. Literally anything else will cancel out the stealth mode. Do a basic attack, you throw down the shuriken. You do Stasis Blade, you cancel out the ability. And you cannot even activate the final technique while you're in your ultimate ability. It only activates whenever you're out of your ultimate ability. And speaking of which, whenever you are in your ultimate ability and you activate your Shadow Flip, you cancel your whole ultimate ability, which makes stealth mode even worse for something like the ultimate ability on the Neon Ninja. It's really essentially the most disjointed ability, but it's also the most important ability. To me personally, there are a couple of things that I would like to see change on the Neon Ninja when it comes to stealth mode. First, the shuriken should only be allowed to be thrown if you do have maxed out shuriken. If you do have 2 shuriken, then you should be able to go back into your regular basic attack. That should be a little bit better because 1 charge and 2 charge on your shuriken literally do barely any damage. They're essentially just worthless. If you could just use your basic attack if you don't have fully maxed out shuriken charges, and if you don't have the maxed out charges, that's when you can throw down your maxed out shuriken. That would be a little bit better. Stasis Blade should not cancel out your whole stealth mode. I don't know why that's a thing. And the final technique should not be canceled out by a shadow flip, because that is to me one of the biggest, like, why do you activate your whole ultimate ability just to be cancelled out by your most important ability? That to me is it just makes no sense. Speaking of the ultimate ability, I will say that this ultimate ability is just so bad. Like, it does have good damage, it does 5.5 times damage, it transforms your whole basic attack into a ranged projectile, but the problem is like it doesn't work with the Neon Ninja's kit whatsoever. The heck, give this to like a knight and it's going to work really well, essentially just make your basic attack into a projectile. However, on the Neon Ninja does not work, because number one, just by using your most important movement speed buff, your most important ability, you cancel out their whole ultimate ability. And secondly, it doesn't give you any shuriken charges, so it doesn't allow you to get your strongest single highest damage ability on this character. It doesn't work with anything tied to the Neon Ninja. Final technique should be completely different. Why not make the ultimate ability into a enhanced stealth mode, so whenever you activate your ultimate ability, instead of just having this projectile basic attack, you go into stealth mode for the whole ultimate ability duration, so you can have all of the movement speed buff. The other thing that it will be is that it gives you full max out shuriken charges for the whole duration on the ultimate ability, so that you can just throw down shuriken charges, essentially spam out max out shuriken whenever you have your ultimate ability. The biggest suggestion that I could give, because as it stands right now, the final technique, the ultimate ability, just doesn't work with anything tied to the Neon Ninja. And yeah, those are all of my 5 classes that I ended up picking in this whole survey. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Once again, link in the description down below for you to take the whole survey yourself. That's going to be everything for me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and keep on hunting.